From MTN, the Montana Television Network, this is Face the State.
Good morning and welcome to Face the State. I'm Shannon NEWTH. We all have a story to tell. Our lives are made up of moments, opportunities, choices, and decisions. This morning, you'll meet two men whose paths crossed, creating a friendship and igniting a passion for helping others. Together, they started a business, one that broke the boundaries of what some thought possible. From the outside, it may seem like Overhere Consulting is a small business started by two guys. It is that, but it's also so much more. This morning, you'll meet Ed Worrell and Travis Stevenson. First, here's an introduction to Ed's story. 32-year-old Ed Worrell experiences his hometown of Great Falls in a much different way now than when he was younger. The CMR graduate lost his eyesight in 2006 in a matter of just 8 months due to diabetic retinopathy.
Was kind of young and dumb and decided to stop taking care of my diabetes, and it ended up in the hospital with a blood sugar well over 1200 because I stopped taking my medication and everything. And my mom actually found me in my room in the basement of the house. When she came home for lunch, my heart had stopped and I was pretty much clinically dead. But they were able to, at Benefice, they were able to revive me and get me going again.
Ed would undergo a number of eye surgeries, his final one just a week after marrying his wife, Becky. The loss of vision meant a rebuilding of life in a new way. At the suggestion of others, he got involved with the Montana Association for the Blind Summer Program, where he will teach again this summer for the 6th time.
The program is for newly blinded adults, and I was a student there for 2 years, learned some very needed skills on like how to use a white mobility cane, how to actually even use a computer, which kind of plays into what I do now. But they gave me those skills to continue with basically get back to what I was doing and what I want to do with my life.
His life of impact took off from there. Ed met Travis Stevenson during the program. Together, they started Overhere Consulting around 2.5 years ago, a business that has changed their lives and the lives of many they work with.
We do assistive technology training for the visually impaired in Montana, and we do a lot of the tech support for blind and low vision services and the VA, Fort Harrison.
He's using his passion to help others who are blind or visually impaired regain independence.
The screen reader allows somebody that's visually impaired to actually hear what's on the screen. It'll actually verbalize like the icons that somebody sees. It'll actually verbalize what those are.
Among Ed's many areas of influence is his work with Fort Harrison's Visual Impairment Services Team, Montana Blind and Low Vision Services, and the Montana Talking Book Library. He also is on the national beta test team for an app called Braille and Audio Reading Download Service. Ed's inspirational pay-it-forward attitude has enriched the lives of many in Great Falls and across the state.
That's kind of what keeps me going, is just that you might get to help that one person, that one little thing that you show them that maybe you take for granted makes their day, and it makes the rest of their day possible even.
All right, I'm joined now by Ed Worrell and Travis Stevenson. Thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Glad to have you here. And you both have very interesting stories to tell. Ed, we just got an introduction to your story there, so I want to talk with you more. Take us back to your childhood, the diabetes and the original diagnosis and eye procedures. We heard from you in that story there, near-death experience, really.
Yeah, I was actually diagnosed with diabetes when I was 4, so now I've had diabetes for about 28 years. And in 2006, I was a typical young adult, didn't care about taking care of my body or my surroundings or anything like that, just thought I knew better than everybody else. And I, at that time, had diabetes for the majority of my life, 20 years. And it just all came to a head. I stopped taking medications and just didn't care anymore, and ended myself up in the hospital. When my mom found me, when she came home from lunch, I had a blood sugar well over 1200.
Wow.
So, and as most diabetics will tell you, the average blood sugar for a non-diabetic is about 114.
Okay, that's a substantial difference.
Yeah, that's
yes.
a substantial difference. So, yeah, it was well above what it should have been, and I ended up spending a little over a week in ICU. The doctors had even said, told my parents that it wasn't looking good and the outcome may not be good.
Wow.
There were even a few days in there they said I may never walk again because I wasn't showing any response to any of the tests or anything along those lines. So it was not only tough for me, but tough for my family and everything as well. And at that time, I'd really only been dating my wife, Becky. We were actually only dating for about 6 months at that point in time. So it was not only tough for my family, but tough for her and her family because we'd only been together for such a short time. And that's kind of why I decided to keep her around, I guess, is
yeah,
she stuck around.
That has a happy ending.
Yeah,
Yes.
it has a happy ending. But after that, about 2 years after that, in 2008, I first started having some eye troubles. At first I thought it was just allergies because I suffer from bad allergies during the spring and summer, but it didn't go away. So I then went to my eye doctor, and then he immediately got me in touch with Dr. Matsko, a retina specialist here in Great Falls. And then roughly a week after that, I had emergency eye surgery at the Moran Eye Center in Salt Lake City.
Okay.
And that's really when it started to digress really fast. I lost my remaining eyesight in about 8 or 9 months. So I had my final eye surgery really a week after I got married. So it was really kind of a tough 8 or 9 weeks. I mean, like I don't remember most of it because it moved so quickly, and by that time I think I'd had 6 or 7 eye surgeries.
Wow.
And I think I've had a total, if I remember right, like 8 eye surgeries. I stopped counting.
You've had a lot when you can't count. You don't remember the number of
Oh,
them,
absolutely.
Right?
It was a lot of eye surgeries and just a lot of times where there were no answers, and it was really kind of troubling and frustrating all at the same time. And I was still trying to work, and that with each eye surgery that became more difficult, and eventually I had to stop working because of it. But it was just one of those things that you kind of have to take one day at a time, and it was tough, but got through it.
And that's less than a year, too. That's substantial changes to get used to something that you've had your whole life, and then you can't see.
Yeah, I basically, before I started having eye surgeries, I was the only person in my family that didn't need glasses. And then I went to needing what I call my Coke bottle glasses very quickly. And then now I joke with my parents and family that I'm once again the only person in my family that doesn't need glasses.
There you go. There you go.
So it's, I mean, through those nine months, I mean, it kind of gave me the outlook. You kind of got to take the good with the bad. Right. As it's just, you got to figure it out. Yeah. And that's basically how I live life now. If you're given a hurdle or a task, you got to figure out how to make your way around it, or figure out how to do something about it.
Yeah, one of two choices, right?
Yep, exactly.
Got to go for it or don't deal with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, Travis, we want to hear some about your story too. So you are low vision. So tell us a little bit about what that means for you on a daily, in your daily life, and some of your background.
Yeah, I was born with what they call, congenital nystagmus.
Okay.
It's a visual birth defect. So I was legally blind from birth. Okay. So I'm what Ed and Becky call, Becky, his wife, they call me extremely nearsighted.
Okay.
Which means I tend to have issues reading font and like things that are hard to read. And that's the basis of like a lot of the issues I have during the day.
Okay.
Most of the time people don't even know that I am because they don't understand that I'm legally blind because I don't use a cane or have a guide dog. So the unfortunate circumstance when I was young was they didn't understand how to deal with it. They saw a vision impairment as like a mental handicap because I couldn't see it meant I didn't understand it. So going through your life as a young person with a vision disability in Montana was not easy. But fortunately I had a lot of good support from my family and they got me through it. So it was, they always looked at me as somebody, if I could at least try to do something as a visual person with the limited sight I had. So if that meant riding a bike or water skiing, which sometimes would have been a little scary, but my mom always worried, but luckily they said, well, there's no harm in trying it. So that's, I mean, it's kind of that in a nutshell. I mean, it's just basically, I just have a really hard time reading small print and things like that. So it's, luckily we are in a situation now where magnification on a, and as we can tell you, it's luckily there's magnification out there now that is far better than it was 20 years ago when I was using it. So, I mean, CCTVs, what that is it's like a magnification tool that you can put documents under. Well, 20 years ago they were the size of a small building. You had to carry it places. So. But
technology's come a long way.
It's come a long way for us. So.
And we do have some video, if we want to show that, of the screen reader and Travis using in your office here. So describe to us a little bit how that works. So you slide the paper under this magnification.
Yeah, so what is actually being demonstrated there is that's a CCTV. So it allows you to place a document underneath it and magnify it. So you can magnify, most machines can even go up to 80 times magnification. Wow. Which at that point is unusable. So that's when you actually have to progress to a different avenue. But this item that we're looking at here actually will read line by line to somebody who's using it. And you can actually zoom in and out and magnify it.
Yeah, it uses what's called optical character recognition.
Okay.
And that's short OCR. Fancy words that it'll just use a synthesized voice to read the text to you.
Okay. And before we go on and talk about other technology, let's talk about how you two met and came together. And we saw a little bit of your office. You're both wearing shirts that say Overhere Consulting. You are co-founders of this consulting business, but you met during something called the MAB program. It's a summer program.
Yeah,
correct?
the Montana Association for the Blind Summer Orientation Program is the official title,
name.
But all of us that work there just simply call it the summer program.
Okay.
It's a program that was actually founded back in the early 50s. It's the oldest program of its kind in the country. And it is for newly blinded adults that have just recently started having vision loss because of macular degeneration or just, I mean, there's all sorts of variables for vision loss, but what it does is you have a whole month, and we do it at the Carroll College campus in Helena. And we've got different core classes, like Travis and I both, we teach computers. Then we've also got low vision, which teaches you how to use CCTVs and handheld magnifiers and just sight aids so that you can go about using your daily life and doing different things like cooking and stuff like that. Then there's also a class called Assistance to Daily Living that they actually teach you how to do things that people take for granted, like counting change, figuring out the difference between a nickel, a quarter, a dime, just by, there's actually differences by touching them that you can tell. Most people take that for granted. They also teach you how to do other things, like they're even starting to do a little bit of cooking, like show you how to use different techniques so that you're cooking safely in the kitchen. And proper techniques. Like at the summer program, we teach independence, and you don't have to do everything yourself, but we try to teach you to do it all by yourself. So when you get home, you can handle the daily tasks. Like I said, like cooking for yourself, doing laundry, reading your mail with low vision tools, or using a computer with a screen reader or magnification. And Travis and I was actually a student there 2 years before I met Travis. I also went through the whole program as well. But Travis and I met there. I was the Apple computer instructor, and Travis came on as the low vision instructor at first. And we started talking, and Travis started talking about he's got degrees in computer tech support from MSU here in Great Falls. And we started talking, and I'm like, I've got this crazy idea. And he's like, well, I'm listening. I'm like, what do you think about doing a assistive technology training and technical support company for the visually impaired? He didn't even hesitate. He answered, he's like, yes. It was one of those things that, and then that's when questions started arising. People honestly asked, well, how are two blind guys going to run a company? And because we both have a good sense of humor, our answer was just like two-sighted people.
Yep.
And they just like, well, okay. A lot of them thought we were just two young guys that had hopes and dreams, but wouldn't become of anything. And now, as we sit here, we went through blind and low vision services. They helped us start our company, and it just is spiraled out of control from there. So it's
in a good way.
Very much so in a good way, yeah.
And Travis, this is something initially you all were thinking just in the Great Falls community, but the need expands across Montana. You're doing services for the entire state.
That lasted, we did a little with one of the elderly support places here in town. They had us come and do a small little tech thing, and we existed for about a week. This was a weekend, and we jumped like on top of everything and made sure that we wanted to be super professional going to this thing, and like we had shirts already made with our names on them, and we're like, okay, we're going to take a real run at this. And one of the BLVS coordinators came up and said, no, you can't just do Great Falls and Helena. There's a need statewide. And so Ed and I turned to each other and kind of simultaneously said, okay, let's make a run at it. And so the company will have been around 3 years in August. Okay. This coming August, it'll be 3 years. And Ed says it's spiraled out of control, but it's a deep passion for both of us. The company means a lot to us, and who we help is huge. So.
And you serve a variety of different groups. Some of those include veterans. We mentioned in the story at the beginning of this program, you work with Fort Harrison, veterans all across the state, and they have specific needs. Each group that you work with it's very individualized, and you provide that support. You work with the Talking Book Library, all sorts of programs.
Well, and there's the neat thing is Ed and I realize that not one client is the same. Each person is different in their own way, and that's a term we hate all the time is client. It's that it attaches a number to it, and we've actually become close friends with a lot of the people we help.
We almost consider the people we work with more family than clients, because we, like, especially the veterans we work with, and not to take anything away from the blind and low vision people we work with or anything either, but those veterans, because Travis and I are both visually impaired, they make a instant bond with us, and I think that's honestly the best part of our job is we get to actually sit down and get to know these people that they sometimes they think that they're the only ones going through their vision loss in the world, and the world seems really, really big when you're going through that. And if we can help them be a little bit more comfortable, even if it's just they call us and they just want to talk. And we make time for all of the people we work with, and like I said before, our family. We accept everybody into the Overhere Consulting family and treat them just like family. Like we always make time for them even if they have the simplest question or just want to talk about something. We feel that because Travis and I have both been there where it feels like we're the only one in the world going through what we're going through. And everybody that has recently lost their eyesight or any other life-changing event kind of feels that way at the beginning.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that's one of our biggest goals, is to make people comfortable with their eyesight, whether it's through working with them with technology or just helping them with what we've experienced, and maybe what we've experienced will help them out. That's really, like Travis and I have said, that's really why we love doing what we do.
Yeah.
And it's amazing.
It is, and it's also one of those things we always say. This doesn't feel like a job to us. We always say if it becomes a job, we don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Because we want the passion to always be there to help people, and it's like we have an emotional connection. I mean, we've got stories with veterans that, like, they break down, and they. And it makes it hard for us because we're like, well, don't do that, because that's
Gonna make me cry.
you're gonna make me cry, and
And
we
it-
have
just-
all stories across the board like that.
So, sometimes it's just as simple as being able to read an email sent from a nephew or a granddaughter or a longtime family member that they haven't been able to communicate with because they haven't been able to use a computer.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it's just so rewarding
Yeah,
to be able to help with that.
and that's a huge thing too with the VA. Is one of the biggest things to help the veterans is communication. Being able to either communicate using like Skype or FaceTime or anything like that on a tablet or a computer is huge for them, because a lot of them have grandkids and family across the country that they want to reach out to, and they don't get to see on a daily basis.
Right.
So that's a huge tool for us.
And talking about those computers, we had you bring in your laptop today because I want to give an audio demonstration to our viewers or listeners about how this technology works. Because when I first met Ed in the office, I thought it was on fast forward when he was playing this, and this is just normal speed for you. So Ed, could you just give us an example here of some of this
absolutely.
technology
Yeah.
and explain
And
as you're going?
What I'm actually using an Apple computer running VoiceOver
Okay.
is what I'm using. It's a screen reader that Apple actually puts on all of their devices, their iPhones, their iPads, and it's free. Well, I shouldn't say free. You got to pay for the device, but
Sure.
The screen reader is actually free because there's a lot of screen readers and software that you have to pay extra for to put on other computers.
Okay.
And it's what I use to do everything. And all I have is our website pulled up, so I can show you how.
End of group. Group main page navigation 6 visited link.
And
Home.
I've actually slowed it down a little bit. And it's
To
link.
humor us a
About
little
up
bit.
link.
So we can-
Contact us. Link. Low visions.
and
Link.
you can
Blindness
just
solutions.
use your arrow keys
Link.
to navigate from
Blindness
link to
solutions.
link.
End of group.
And
Group social media
and
3 items.
that's what it's reading. It's just reading the links
Link.
down our
Facebook.
navigation on the left side of the page.
Link.
Okay.
Twitter. Link. Windows. Links. Headings.
And you can use other key commands, like I can
Heading level 1. Overhere
jump to
Consulting logo.
our
Image.
logo.
Heading level 2. Bringing technology into a site. Overhere Consulting is the only assistive technology
And,
training company
and
in
then
the
it'll
entire
actually
state.
read what's on the page to you.
Overhere Consulting.
Like,
Overhere
I'll
Consulting.
skip to an
Description
image.
list 4 items. Heading level 3. Computer and mobile operate. Apple. Mic Google. End of description. Banner 4 items. Apple MacBook Pro laptop image.
And that's actually reading, due to the programming on our site, it's actually reading the description of the image for
Okay.
somebody that's visually impaired.
Sure.
So we're not just limited to the text. If the software or the website's programmed properly, it'll actually read everything on the screen to us.
Okay. Which is
Windows
amazing
laptop,
because you
Apple
think
MacBook
about
Pro
all the
laptop
different
image.
visual elements that go into creating websites and the social media we use and everything like that. That technology has come that far just within the last 5-10 years
yeah.
to be able to have
Absolutely.
technology like this.
And the crazy thing about our website, Ed programmed it.
I did all the programming on it myself with help from people with site to make sure it's all lined properly and not
Sure.
overlapping.
Yeah.
Right.
And what's funny is when he goes and programs the site, he uses me sometimes to help place like where items need to be, and I'm like, oh, great, you're using a low
And
vision person.
this is literally the blind leading the blind here.
literally.
But it's working.
Yeah,
It's
it's working.
working.
You're making it work. We do, if you noticed, Ed is holding a leash. I do want to introduce you to another big part of the day-to-day life, which is Hallie, a very sweet dog down there. I don't know if she's, oh, her ears perked up a little bit. Tell me a little bit about Hallie.
Well, Hallie she's actually my guide dog. I got her from Guide Dogs for the Blind in Boring, Oregon. Hallie, sit. Come on. There you go. Yeah, she will be 5 actually tomorrow on April 2nd.
Oh,
So
happy birthday, Hallie.
yeah, so it's she I've had her for about 3.5 years. So she's just opened up the world to me. I mean, it was really neat the first time I actually got to grab the harness and walk down the street with her in Portland, Oregon. It was, one of my friends asked me, he's like, well, how did that feel? And I just simply told him, I'm like, when you got the keys the first time of getting your driver's license, it was that sense of freedom. I could just walk down the street with nobody else there to help me. She would I use a white mobility cane to get around too. And it's so different because like a white mobility cane, you rely on the sensation from the cane to tell you what's in front of you. A guide dog will take you around. What your cane will normally tell you is there. So it's just one of those things that you got to put all of your trust into through that harness handle into the dog.
Yeah.
And I trust her with my life, walking down the street and everything.
No pressure, Hallie.
None at
Yeah.
all.
We only have about a minute left here, so real quick, from each of you, what is your vision, if you will, for the future for your company?
I honestly just love to see us continue what we're doing and be able to reach as many people with visual impairments in the state as we can.
Travis?
A lot of the reason, and I'm saving this for last, a lot of the reason I do what I do is because my son is low vision. And it's important for him to have a future. And I want to provide that for him. And if the company's an outlet for that. So luckily he's attending the Montana School for the Deaf and Blind, and we get the fortunate opportunity to help them as well. So that's a huge part for us. And Logan is a very important piece of the puzzle.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, we see passion in both of you, and thank you for the services that you're providing to the state and for being willing to share your stories with us. You can find more out about Overhere Consulting, overhereconsulting.net. They're on Facebook as well. Ed, Travis, Hallie, thank you all so much for being here with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This has been an edition of Face the State. Have a great Sunday.
You've been watching Face the State, a presentation of MTN, the Montana Television Network.